Hello everyone and welcome to another session about Stelo, and today we're going to focus on approvals and how we configure Stelo to represent our own custom business process. And so for us it's all really about the business process that might be multi-step processes where the app goes through various different stages and collects data on its journey. Or the simplest kind of multi-step process is a one-step approval app where somebody enters some information, it goes to somebody else to approve or reject, and on approval probably triggers some update inside SAP or indeed in another system. The way we do this chiefly is through configuration inside the SAP backend system. So let's take a look at that. We do this through a routing table, and this is pretty simple to configure. We represent each stage of the document flow using statuses. These are logical statuses, and basically at each different status different people can access that particular app, and you can take different actions, or it makes different updates. And so every app starts off as an initial status and finds its way to some kind of complete status, and at which point it's no longer in play. And so basically for each different status we configure what actions a user could take. So it might be approve, for example, or reject. This is entirely in our gift to configure these actions. And then based on an action applied to a particular status, then we derive a new logical status. And then so we basically build up the entire process flow for moving from one status to another status using these actions in this single routing table. It does a whole bunch of other things. So for example, when we get to a new status, we can trigger a notification email, and we'll show that in a second. So for this particular app type, I'm expecting to see a submit action on the initial status, and then to move through to a submitted status. That's all about the statuses. We also have in the same routing area of Stelo, we can plug in user exits to determine the owner at each logical status. So if I am submitting a particular app for approval, then when it gets the submitted status, then it may be, for example, my line manager who has access to the document to approve. If he or she were to reject that document, then it would come back to me, and so I would then be the owner. That kind of logic about who accesses each different app at the different status, we handle with the user exits, because often there's common pieces of business logic, some rules, if you like, in order to determine that owner, that we can reuse from one status to another, or indeed process from one process to another. That owner, as we call it, that process owner, might be a single user or could be a group. So let's go ahead and trigger this particular process. And here we are. It's this demo progressive guidance app that we've shown before. In this app, the first thing I see is a list of employees. I'm going to just change a filter in order to choose some test data that I know is good, and let's choose this employee. This is just to get some information into this app so we can see it move from one status to another. So here's my app in this initial status. The actions I see up here are configurable, are dynamically pushed in from the back end. So we've got a couple of standard ones that we can configure to show or not show, so save as draft and delete, and then the submit option that's come from that routing table. So I'll just put any old information into this to push it along. Just fill in the mandatory fields. Okay, and so now I'll submit. So what happens now is this particular app is saving a document, a Stelo app document if you like, pushing that onto the new logical status and then triggering a notification email to the new owner, which in this case happens to be me. And so sure enough, a notification email has arrived. Any data from the app can be included in this email, in the email body, and so some of those fields I selected are included. And we can use Flow to manage the email template and the email send, and so in fact this email is formatted by our other product, Flow, which is for managing great email templates inside SAP. So that's my my notification. So the app now has moved on to a new status. It's made itself available into the inbox. I can go back now to my Launchpad, open up my inbox, and I should see this document waiting for me to take some action. We can manage this inbox as a standalone approval app just for this process, or as a generic inbox where I can pick up all different types of document if I have multiple different processes that I'm, for example, the approver for, or I'm submitting some information about. So here I can see the new document status is now submitted, and if I open this up from the inbox, then I can see this app now has got all the information. It's asking me for some new information, some different information, but my options have changed up at the top. So in this sense, all I can do is submit. But let's just show that if I submit that one more time, then we've moved that document to the next stage in the document flow, next stage of the process. It's still in my inbox, but now the status has been moved to reviewed, and that's basically obeyed the rules inside that routing table. And so that's all there is to it. It's very simple to build your own business processes using Stelo and a mixture of simple configuration tables and simple ABAP user exits.